Hey, Bonehead folks, this is Joe Lewis. This is a little different because I'm doing an introduction for this just to kind of explain what's going on. We had a blast with our new guest, writer, director, and just ranking to our wonderful storyteller, Michael Davis. Now, you'll know Michael Davis from some of his movies in the early 2000s, 100 Girls, 100 Women, Monster Man. We like those movies. We also wanted to have him on the show because he directed and wrote a movie that we absolutely love called Shoot 'Em Up that never gets enough attention, never gets the love that it should. It stars Clive Owen, Monica Bellucci, Paul Giamatti. If you've never seen it, we talk about it. Michael is doing a new movie called Blast 'Em Up, and he needs your help. So part of this is we're going to have a trailer after this of Blast 'Em Up, and he's got a Kickstarter. And the link to that Kickstarter will be on all our socials. So you can just click on it. All three boneheads are going to donate, but you can just click on that and donate. And if you do that, you are entered in for a chance to win an opportunity to be not only on Bonehead Weekly, but our new friend Michael Davis is going to be coming back on the show, and he will talk to you and answer your questions. And it's going to be a lot of fun, but you have to donate to the Kickstarter to be entered. Okay, so donate to the Kickstarter, give some money. Let's get some original voices out there. Let's not base everything on IP. Automatically, things, every time I go to the movies, it's some sort of intellectual property that already exists, like Batman and Spider-Man and Star Wars and Star Trek. And I love all these things. But isn't it cool to go see a movie that isn't based on something you've already seen? Something different. Michael's been doing that for a long time. We had a blast talking to him. Him and James geeked out over Bond, although he agrees with me about Goldfinger. And he also said something really smart that's going to crack you up later on about me. But that's beside the point. I'm just going to give Chad a hard time about it. Check this out. There's going to be a trailer as soon as this intro's over of Blast 'Em Up. Give to the Kickstarter. Check out this almost 2-hour episode. You're going to love it. Give. Enter in. Give a little bit of money to the Kickstarter and get entered for a chance to be on the show and be on Bonehead Weekly and have an actual director of movies answer your questions. It'll be a blast. Okay. So this has been Joe. Welcome. We're going to do a couple of the things. So if you're listening to us, check this out on YouTube too, so you can watch the trailer and enjoy. You're going to love this episode.
I've been thinking. I'm doing good. It's just good business. I'm sorry. Think of all the things that think these days. Everything.
What a way to make a living.
Wait, gets worse.
Hey, Boneheads, that was a quick look at the trailer. Now starts the interview. There was another thing he gave us to download that's just not working for me, and I apologize to Mr. Davis and everyone out there. But we will talk about Blast Him Up as we go through the interview. Make sure you give the Blast Him Up. And the interview starts really weird. It's going to start right now because it's different because Michael kept interviewing us and we loved it. So it was cool. Here starts the interview. Welcome, Michael Davis. Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. This is amazing. But before
this is already maybe one of my favorite episodes.
This is one of our favorite episodes. We're going to introduce writer, director extraordinaire, Michael Davis. Now, Mr. Davis, I just wanted to ask you a question really quick.
Okay. Hi, everybody, by the way.
Hi, everybody. Have you ever seen this movie?
Oh, man. Look, you got a great poster there. Wow. Very cool. Nice.
If you're listening, I spent an hour and a fucking half earlier with my 6-year-old going through my one sheet collection because I can't, and I'm sure you're a nerd, you know this, you can't hang them all.
Oh, I know. Definitely not.
So I knew I owned it. I've been an hour and a half trying to find it just to show
Well,
it.
you know what? That really makes my day. I mean, you are a true fan. Now, I have to tell you, if you get a chance, I posted on TikTok and Instagram. I made a little video about, oh, wow. A video of all the fan art of Shoot 'em Up, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. People have done some really great. But there was a guy in France who made like a 20-foot by 30-foot mural of Shoot 'em Up. I mean, I don't know how to screen share, but maybe I can find it here and then send it to you. And then you guys can screen share.
Yeah, we will do that. But before, you were asking us a question that we never get. So you're going to be episode number 326. But before you get started, go ahead.
Okay, so I am always interested in other people. And so I'm interested in also your origin story. Like, what do you guys do? How did you get together? You've done over 300 episodes and, you know, just everything about yourselves. I just like to kind of know because it's more, I know about me, but I like knowing about you.
I lost a bet with God.
No.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Jim.
What was the bet, right? That you had to end up working with these guys?
Basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, this is my punishment. This is my purgatory. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
we're three best friends where we all met at a college, and we're each other's longest relationship that we're not related to. So
let me ask you this: so, what college did you guys get?
Oh, this is going to be funny. Morehead State University.
I've heard of that. That's a huge place. What is it known for, though?
Nothing.
Morehead. I've heard of it. There's something.
So no. Here's the joke.
You're hoping for it, but you may not have heard
State of it. In Morehead, Kentucky. You know what Morehead, Kentucky's logo is?
I know.
Hold on to your seat. The hardwood capital.
No way! Really? The hardwood?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's a wood town. I'm not joking.
Well, but it does have a it's now known for its telescope, right?
Yeah, but it's also home to
that's very phallic as well.
Well, hold on. Yeah. It's also home to the Licking River.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, they had
lots of jokes.
They had a sign up that said the hardwood capital of the world for probably 2 decades or so. And then I think they finally got the joke and they took it down.
You know, it is so amazing. Like, you know, there was what was this magazine I used to get? And they always had a page called Found Porn, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, also when I was a kid, you know, I remember when it was, I always collect these things for my script and I'm kind of irreverent, but there was this manual or book, a how-to book, how to pray for young Christian girls, right? And the title of the book was While I'm on My Knees. And I'm like, come on, people, just think just a little bit, you know?
That's amazing.
When I was early in my career, I had to work at this. I had to do a video timing, you know, where you make the color right. And they always call them post-production houses, or they just end it with post, right? And then they like to make words like communications, right? But they shortened it. So I edited it at a place called Video Compost, but it sounds like video compost. Like,
Yeah.
come on. It's just like people they just don't take pause. Hold on one second. I gotta tell my wife, she keeps dinging me, right? And I can't keep anything.
We'll tell her just to come
turn
hang
off
out with us.
my messages. Getting pinged during a show. Sorry, so unprepared.
That's okay.
I don't know.
We are too.
Okay, so what did you guys were all at Morehead State, and what were you majoring in?
Chad and I were in communication, of course, broadcasting. And
Right.
James was
licking
is
hobos'
from the
butts.
town. James is from the town, but actually went to the University of Kentucky, where the two of us work now. And
Okay.
then he came to work there, and we worked there, and that's how we met. But the short version of it is that we made short films. We've never really got a good break, probably because we suck. And then
No.
the last few years, the cool thing is we moderate for a lot of the conventions. So if it's within a 3 or 4 state, I do, and Chad and James sometimes do. I do the main panel of the slip. So it just kind of goes along with it. So I truly have got to meet most of my heroes and been on stage with them. So
who do you remember the most being on stage with that were your like ultimate favorite?
Sam Raimi, George Romero. I
Okay.
can go on and on. I mean, the one Chad always says it's my stock answer, but Romero is one of those. It was about 8 months before he died,
Right.
and I knew the man was ill. I didn't know he was that ill, and because I didn't get to ask you this question because I always ask 2 questions. Is there anything you do want to talk about? Anything you don't want to talk about? And Romero wanted to talk about the ones that got away out of the blue, just says it to me. And I said, well, I won't ask any zombie questions. And he goes, yeah, right. And I was like, no, the audience will. I won't. And I always
Well,
like to have those. Yeah.
But you know what I'm going to do is I'll talk about anything, but I should have been more prepared. I'm going to try to transfer you the trailer for Blast 'Em Up so you can play it to the group at some point.
Yeah, we'll put it on the video for it.
But I need to send it to you, don't I? I haven't sent it to you, right?
No, you haven't, but that's okay.
And which person is the best person to get it, the transfer? And
Joe.
Is that
Joe.
Do I have your email?
I sent it to you. I actually just emailed you about 20 minutes ago saying,
Okay.
are you still
saying,
going to
where
be able
are you? You're late. Are you
I
one of those Hollywood douchebags that is going to blow us off? That guy, he's a jerk.
Did we tell you something we said
Okay.
about you behind your back?
Yeah. So what do you teach, or what is your higher education that you're teaching at school?
James is a professor, James.
Yeah, I teach the history of higher education. So how we got to this point.
You teach that you're a higher education teacher teaching the history of higher education?
Yeah. So basically, I'm teaching a course this summer about campus riots and protests and all that stuff, which I thought was going to be a history class, but due to recent news, is also going to be current events. It looks like. So yeah, so that's kind of what I teach and what I do, and I get in all sorts of trouble.
And
doing
do you
it
always
sometimes.
look like you're from the Matrix and you work, like Mr. Anderson?
I wear glasses, as you were talking earlier about.
You look like one of those guys that would take on Neo, I think.
Well, I appreciate
think
that.
he's one of those guys that would try to sell. He looks like he's one of those guys that's going to give Neo a Bible and tell him that he should.
I was about to say, I appreciate the compliment. That's one of the best compliments I ever got, was to be compared to Agent Spencer. No,
That's
much
right.
like you, actually, I had to start wearing glasses at about 7th grade.
And it was the worst, right? 7th grade.
Yeah.
Didn't you feel emasculated?
I did, but at the same time, I could see. Like, it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't want them, but I can now read, and so it was kind of it was a forced balancing act.
Well, so let me ask you this: were you guys uber nerds in high school and junior high, or did you just finally decide that we just love? Because I think if you love genre stuff, you love horror, you love sci-fi, that doesn't necessarily make you totally a geek. I mean, because I always found like geeks took a long time to kind of claim their territory and say, I'm awesome. But like you had to struggle because you felt like you were an outcast and you weren't popular and all that stuff. It's not just loving geek stuff, but I feel like there's this underdog quality that you had to go through.
All of it.
Like that.
Oh yeah,
All of
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah, from
yeah,
the
no, it
time I
was-
was from the
Yeah, no,
as
I
far as we can
was-
go back.
Yeah,
But
you know, it's
but you don't look nerdy. You look kind of handsome, right? Right.
which
And
one of
are you
us?
kind of tall? You're a little bit on the nerdy side, right? And but if you had your hair longer, right? And I think if you worked on getting, I mean, if you got some like awesome glasses, you could probably graduate from out of geekdom.
Wait,
But
which
maybe
one
you
are you
don't wanna do
talking
that.
about?
Well,
I-
Jay,
I
I-
don't know. I just
I
get on these
love-
Yo,
shows
do us
and
all.
I
This
just
is
Because I mean, it's obviously not me growing my hair out.
okay.
If Jake
This
can
is
grow
the
his hair out,
best
And,
he will.
roast
and Chado,
ever.
was Chado a nerd all along too, or not?
Oh God, yes, sir. Yeah, I
Yeah, we're
was.
all nerds.
It's like people ask. We had a conversation with a friend of ours about. We always talk about, and I'm not going to. I'm sorry, we're not bashing the 8 days a week movie.
Well, you could bash it if you
No,
want. Hardly
no,
anybody
it's a-
ever bashes that movie.
No, and I'm
But
not
go
bashing
on.
it. I'm not bashing it. It's just about high school and everything about it.
Right.
Because we all three had terrible experiences in high school. And she goes, "Well, why was high school so terrible?" I was a non-entity. So yeah, I was a true nerd. Yeah, I had one friend in high school. He introduced me to. I was already a dork. I watched tons of science fiction, tons of action.
Okay.
I watched every cartoon you could ever imagine. Most of my collection is all cartoons.
Say, I loved cartoons. I would get up for the Saturday morning, and figure out what shows I'm going to watch. Obviously, I loved Johnny Quest, right?
Yeah. I was up. The biggest excitement of my year was the fall TV Guide preview to see what cartoons were coming out.
That's right. But they had
And
the Friday night previews where you might be too young, but
No, we had the Friday night previews.
And they would say, and I love that. And I was going like, what am I going to watch? And I hated it when there was a conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, I was saying it was just my life wasn't the movie 8 days a week. It was was like I was just a non-entity. That's what I was trying to say.
So
okay.
No,
well, no, that's like a nerd fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even I mean, most like in real life, that kid Josh Schaefer,
yeah,
he was like really cool. He had a kind of like a DJ career in London, and he talked people into living in one of those longboats in London, and girls loved him, and he really wasn't a nerd. But the buddy character, R.D. Robb, was a nerd because he was. Do you remember this movie Christmas Story?
yes,
Would you remember the kid that got his tongue stuck on the pole?
yes,
Yeah.
That's R.D. Robb.
right.
I didn't remember his name. He's also in the sequel. Did you watch the sequel a couple years ago?
You know what? I couldn't get through it.
Really? So
I mean, maybe, but it was like him in the office. There was just the beginning of it. It just didn't latch in. I'm sure it's really good, but I have a hard time if I don't get sucked in.
have the same
But
problem.
I should probably do it. So wait, I'm going to see if I'm going to send it to a Joe.Lewis, right?
sounds great.
Okay,
That's
so
cool.
it's going to come. So then tell me, we got the genesis, you guys coming together. How did you first bond, and then how did you end up with your show? And
Well, I can tell you how I bonded with the bearded one.
The handsome one. He called me the handsome one, motherfucker. So
No, he
don't
never.
forget.
He never specified which one of us was the handsome one.
no, it's
oh.
true. It's Joe, the
Michael.
one with the beard.
Hey,
Come
and Michael,
on,
real
man.
quick, can I tell you something? There's
Yeah.
a couple people who listen to our show often who are going to shit their pants when you said this because this has been a running gag. And the second is I am more popular. I'm 46 years old. I am more popular at 46 than I ever was at 16.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt. But you know what? Sometimes you grow into it.
I grew into it. In fact, I don't think I even hit my flow till the late 30s when I started doing the convention stuff. It was probably in my 40s where I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, part of it is probably then all of a sudden you realize that everybody loved what you loved, and by being on stage, you took on this sort of mantle. But it just makes you mad. You could have figured this out at 16 if you had just something happened. You know what I mean? Like like, why couldn't I have been this confident guy? Or like I know that I'm weird, right? And my wife gets mad at me because I talk loud. I equate passion with volume. but I can't help when I get excited. I'm like Doc Brown, I'm
Yeah.
sending you back to the future. I can't help it. But I wouldn't have worried about, I no longer worry about being weird,
That's part
And
of it.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
that's kind
getting
of
older.
that's me now, because when in high school, I am so to answer your question real quick, but it also ties into what we're talking about here. I met Joe by going. He was one of my RAs, and I went into his dorm room, and he had pictures of Army of Darkness and it was Army of Darkness, and I said, "Oh, you're a fan of Sam Raimi," and it stopped him in his tracks. He goes, "You know Sam Raimi," and my social awkwardness automatically kicked in.
Mhm.
And the only Sam Raimi project I could come up with was, "Oh yeah, I love Xena."
I don't remember. I remember it vaguely. So, oh, by the way, do you want to be called Mr. Davis, Michael, or Mike? What is your preference?
Michael.
Michael.
Michael, but
Michael,
it's so weird. I go by Michael, and it's so weird how some people just decide to call me Mike without me even saying. I was a Mike when I was growing up. My brothers and sisters call me Mike, but it's really weird where people just decide on Mike. It's been
Yeah,
a long.
I want to point out I did say Michael.
That's cool. That's very good. Well, you know what the root, or how people's names mean something.
Yeah.
You know what Michael means?
no, I
No.
don't.
Godlike.
Well, that's
Well,
okay.
I mean, he is an archangel, so
That's
Yeah.
true.
So how did you get to the podcast?
Joe, you handle that one, man.
Well, for years, Chad tried to get me to do it, and I kept feeling like a failure because one short film after another never took off. And Chad finally talked to me. So we finally found a producer who left us years ago, and we just decided to do it. Chad, right? We just said,
Yep.
let's just do it. And
Well,
then,
no, I think no.
you
What
had a few
happened is
people. Yeah,
some
you had a
lady
few
came.
people.
Some lady came up
Oh.
to you at your conference.
I
at
completely
your-
forgot
your-
this. I was at doing a convention. Tell you, the first year or two of moderating those panels, I didn't even introduce myself. I didn't even think about introducing myself. I knew, and a lot of that job is just, I call it, and you will get this joke, fluffer. I get the audience ready for the talent to come on, and people always ask me, it was like, oh, how can, and I've heard actors and directors say this, how can I get your job, or how can I get into it? I was like, I can tell you how I did it. It'll never work for you. Am I wrong, Michael?
But you know what? I actually think that it wasn't that you forgot to say your name. You have a great quality that you figure the focus is on the guest. It's not about me. I'm going to sublimate my personality and put the floor on the other person. And that's actually a really nice quality, because out here, everybody is a self-promoter. You have to be. And it gets to be really kind of annoying. And, anywhere you go, if it's Hollywood people, when people are asking you, well, what are you up to? They're not really interested. They just want to see whether or not you're a little bit ahead of them or whether they're a little bit ahead. It's always this jockeying for position. I call it the big dick measuring thing,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's really uncomfortable to be always feeling like you're in competition. And a lot of people aren't very genuine. So you just decided you're finally going to do the podcast, or you said some woman came up to you?
Yeah, Chad reminded me. I do jokes in between, keep the audience going, and then you just do a question or two. I hate it when moderators or whatnot, interviewers just monopolize. I want the audience. We're there to make. They're the ones paying the tickets. I get paid, so I want them to get their money's worth. And this lady came up to me and goes, "I need to listen to your podcast. You're a lot of fun." And I go, "I don't have one." "What do you mean you don't have?" And then that's when we decided to do it.
And how hard was it to launch and then find an audience? And what are the sort of touch tone moments in the growth of, it's called Bonehead. What's the show called again?
Bonehead Weekly. Yeah, Bonehead.
Oh, right.
The voice, the actual, so launching it wasn't too bad. My son was being born the same 2 weeks when I started a podcast and my kid was born.
Timing.
It's always the birth of everything.
It's the birth of everything, because it's always really easy for me to remember how long we've been doing the damn show. My kid will be 7 in July. So that wasn't difficult. You asked the question, how did we find our audience? I think we're still looking for it. I think a lot of times we've not been as successful because people turn us off because of the accent sometimes, because we're from Kentucky. I'd also think that it wouldn't have hurt if we'd have had a woman in the mix, and we've tried to do that before, and it's just we've never found it's just never worked. But I think we
Yeah,
keep
Barbara,
working
you failed miserably.
harder. We have a ton.
But let me ask you
We have a
this.
lot of lady listeners, but I don't know. That's a very good question. And then there's been so many great guests. Those would be my questions.
Okay, well, I mean, my question is that because you're based in Kentucky, right? I think that people that are nerds and geeks, they're everywhere, right?
Oh, I
Oh,
get
yeah.
it.
And couldn't you turn it into an advantage that you're not one of these coast people, either in New York or in LA, right? And if you're doing all these conventions, certainly the audiences in all these areas, not that it's no longer bandwidth like they can't get you on the radio, but certainly wouldn't you want not only a nerd, but maybe a nerd like you that talks like you? I mean, couldn't that be a plus?
One of our biggest markets is Australia.
Okay, but okay, that's fine. I totally get it. I mean, I have
Just
to. I
go-
mean, yeah, but I just think that that the accent. I understand what you're saying because I have to say that when I was growing up, I was like, I don't know. Did you guys go through your Civil War phase with the little, action figures and all that? And
I didn't do action figures, but I loved Ken Burns. Chad and I are big Ken Burns fans. Documentaries,
Okay,
that Civil
all right.
War. And Shelby
I-
Foote is the voice of God, who was one of the best Civil War historians. Hopefully, you're fairly impressed by that.
Yeah, I'm very impressed because I mean, Ken Burns is great, but I end up being but I went through, but I always thought that in the games, it's like the South was the underdog and they were the better fighters, and everybody thought they were cooler and smarter, and they didn't have like a drunkard like Ulysses S. Grant. But I always felt like the noble cause, even though probably were a whole bunch of other politics, that the North was being righteous. And so I became prejudiced, even though I went to summer camp in the South. My brothers and sisters went to school in the South, but I had to go to school in New York City. Right? I was a little bit prejudiced, and it's just weird. It's totally unfair, and so I apologize. So
I think the whole damn country's that way. If we had
I think you're right.
If I had an hour, and by the way, we're in Lexington, Kentucky, which is a lot like Austin in Texas, that little blueberry and all the red.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Lexington and Louisville are the little blueberries.
Okay, but at the end of the day, I feel like our love of art is at a certain point. I do my best to not bring in the red or blue thing because we're uniting over stuff we love.
Yes,
and
right.
What's the point of talking about things that are going to divide us, right?
Right.
Yes.
So you say, how long now? How many years have you been podcasting now?
It'll be 7 years in July.
Okay. And I mean, this is the great thing I love about the passion for whether it's science fiction, action movies, horror films, is the residual afterwards. You probably talk about it way more than you've ever watched the stuff. And it brings you really closer together. It's just one of the funnest things to talk about. I mean, the only thing I was talking the other night is, I was on another show and we were talking about how hard it is to get projects done. The film business is so hard. But the thing is that I have such great relationships because we have so much to talk about, so much to bond over, and I have the greatest friendships. It's not like you're going together and you're going, hey, how about the Dodgers or how about that? You're really talking about things that you care about and and learn from each other. So, I mean, to me, genre geekdom is more than just the content. It's a community, and it's so weird that when I was in high school, I was a geek, but I never was identified that there were others like me. Like I was a nut for James Bond, but I didn't know anybody else in my school that loved going to the movies every Friday night, right? Or doing any of these things, and that I think stunted me because I have a very limited taste in the types of movies I like, right? Like I don't like gangster movies because I don't like watching smart people doing, immoral things when they know it's really bad and it's going to end bad for them. Yeah. But if I had had more nerd friends where we talked about The Godfather, we talked about the Al Pacino movies, Scarface, I would have having a greater range of movies I liked. And maybe my career would have been better because there would be more things that I would have liked. Maybe I would direct that movie, right?
See,
Yeah.
yeah, and I would say that's the one difference I had in high school is yes, I was a non-entity. I had pretty much zero social the social network at all, but I did have one friend that I met my freshman year, like within the first 3 weeks of that year.
And I had one strong friend, and that's actually better than having lots of friends, I think.
Right. And he was a movie nerd. Now, at that point in my movie knowledge, I knew comedies, I knew action films. Now, the action films, it was, I had two other brothers and they pretty much, because they were younger, they got to pick. So I had to watch every single Don the Dragon Wilson, Billy Blank action film every weekend, drove me crazy. So I knew all of that stuff, but then I met my friend here and he was so deep into obscure stuff. So he introduced me to Russ Meyer. He's like, "Oh, you gotta watch these Russ Meyer films." And I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Faster
Well,
Pussycat, kill.
Yeah. And then
Well, you were reminding me that. So you've watched the show Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, right?
oh yes, sir, of course.
Okay, so one of my best friend and a former writing partner early in our career was Peter Gould, who helped
really?
create Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And I always loved the story that Peter tells. Like when he was 12 or 13, he was really into visual effects, and he wanted to see the visual effects because they thought they might be good in Flash Gordon. And so this little 13-year-old kid, but he goes to the magic shop and buys one of those fake mustaches, goes up on tiptoes and asks for a ticket, and they sell it to him. And he, as a 13-year-old, sneaks into Flash Gordon to see the visual effects. And I just thought that was really funny.
Where did he grow up?
And Russ Meyer makes me think about that. So, but I was reminded, I wanted to step in here. So you guys don't do your podcast live, right?
No.
And I don't know whether this matters to you, but this thing on YouTube called Super Chat? Do you know what a Super Chat is on YouTube?
I don't.
Okay. It used to be that the only way you could make money is if you got 1 million views, maybe they would give you $1,000 per million views. It was such a bad thing that it was impossible to make money as a YouTuber.
Agreed.
Well, they've introduced this thing that if you're live, people can either ask you a question for $5, $10, or $25. And the more you pay, the more words you get for your question. And if the guy answers your question live, you pay the $5 or the $10 or the $25. And my friend, who is a YouTuber, one year he makes maybe a little bit from the views, but he made like $60,000 just from the super chats. So if you're going to do a show, right, you might want to think of, and again, you're probably just doing it for the love of it, but maybe if you're doing the super chats, you put it in a little kitty for your next film or whatever project you want. So I think, because you guys are very entertaining. And I also love this sort of palette, how many of you guys are together, that you might as well try doing it live. You might also get more, people will always find the show later, but why not do it live? It kind of makes it more exciting. And I think people like the live event, and they like writing in and getting you to say, longtime viewer, ask the question, what was the first short film that you made? And I'm actually interested. What was the first short film you made?
Reminiscence.
What is it?
It was called Reminiscence. It's the best one we made.
And what is the log line on it?
It's about a guy who's in a car accident remembering the 3 important women in his life.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, does he die? God damn it.
Well, we kind of don't know, but yes.
Okay. He does in your head.
I actually say he doesn't. I say he doesn't. When I watch it, I see it different. I see that he turns his back on work and he focuses on what's important. But
There's no.
And so you think that the accident turns his life around, is the way you
yeah.
It's just who you are and how you interpret it. Yeah. Whatever your
Okay.
personality is.
But so anyway, I just wanted to think about it, that you should think about doing super chats. And it's a way for the audience that you get to know your audience a little bit more, right? You feel more connected with them, right? I mean, it is nice that they probably write in and like your shows, but what if it happens live? It's something to think about. I don't know.
It is something to think. We actually had a couple of our this year we've tried a little thing different. We've had a couple of our, and I hate to call them super fans, but you know, the people who watch the most,
Superman's
we've had them on the
cool.
show. We've had them on the show. Well, yeah, but I always think, yeah, nobody's really a fan of us. I just don't even like using the word of fan of me. Does that make
Well,
sense?
I
So
think you feel uncomfortable saying it
yeah,
to people, but if you're using it to describe something in a shorthand, I think it's fine. It's not like my fan. So,
yeah. But
I-
we really do it for the love. We actually were going to do a couple of things for the money a couple of times. We're Elsa LLC. We did actually everything you're supposed to do business wise up front, but it was just man, do we need to run another business? It was, do you know what I mean? So
well, if you're doing it for the love, then you don't have to worry about it. But I just think maybe you could supplement it.
I think that's a good idea, but we are getting off target.
I know. Because I always, when I go to parties, people go, "Oh, you're like." Even when I first met Clive Owen, I had all these questions because it makes me less nervous and it makes me feel like if you're interested in other people, they like it because most people like talking about themselves.
Dude, you honestly, no offense, you sound the fuck a lot like me.
Well,
If I had a quarter for all the different times you were asking earlier about doing these and the one piece of advice I always give them about that job, like I could tell you how I get, but you can't do it the way I did it, is always remember, no one came to see you.
No. All right. So we're off topic, and people are
Yeah,
saying
but
they
I was
want
gonna
to
say,
talk
but in-
about movies and all that stuff.
But I was going to
So
say, in
should we
this
get-
instance, but in this instance, we did come to see you because you have no idea when James said, I think Michael Davis is going to do the show, how like we were all jumping in our
Yeah,
seats.
we were really excited.
Yeah, and then the douchebag is 23 minutes late.
We
We
don't
would have
care.
waited.
We're
We
still
would have
talking
waited.
to
Thank
the-
God.
It's
Any-
fine.
all right.
Um,
So do you want
we're
to
still
talk
talking
about
to the-
movies, or what did you guys want to? What
Well,
do you guys
actually-
want to talk about?
Well, we
let me
love talking to
segue.
directors and writers and production designers. If you didn't get to go through it, that's actually, we don't have a ton of actors on the show because we actually want people who actually make the movie. And I don't mean any just, I love some actors, I love actors. It's just that a lot of times they're in their trailer. If you want stories.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that I always hate it when the writer writes a great line of dialogue, but it's always the actor that gets the credit. And yes, they deliver it, but there's a great, phrase, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage.
Yeah.
And I actually think the most important thing in any one of these things, TVs or movies, it's the writer. I'm convinced that if you have a good script and good actors, my mom could direct a good movie because everybody takes care of you as a director. You get the value of all these talents. And even if you suck, and there are a lot of them that suck, you can still look really good if you have good people around you. But the most important thing is a script. And I've always thought it'd be interesting because the problem out here is that the Directors Guild is really powerful, and the Writers Guild always gets screwed during the strikes and all that kind of stuff. And the Directors Guild always sort of sides with the producers, and the producers always give the directors a little bit more. But I always wanted to do this test. If you took a bunch of directors and said, you have to write your project and then go and direct your short, and then you took a bunch of writers who and the directors should not be directors that have ever written before. And you took a bunch of writers that have never directed before, right, to write a script and then film it, and then see whose projects came out best. Probably the writers' stuff would be better. They might not be as cinematic and they might be more rough technically, but they would be better and more engaging movies. And it's more important to be a good writer. And I think they would nail me to the cross if I ever said that at the Directors Guild. But it's really weird. It took me a long time, but I became a member of the Directors Guild. And every once in a while, they would have these functions. And the really strange thing is, every one of those directors is an alpha personality. Have you ever been in a room with 200 alpha personalities? It is the really strangest vibe because there's nobody there that doesn't want the spotlight. And I've stopped going. I feel really uncomfortable because they're just too many, big dogs in the room.
That makes absolute
I
sense.
couldn't handle it. I couldn't.
Yeah,
I'm like, just give me a bag of Cheetos and put me in the corner.
Yep. And you're happy, you know, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but you probably could write a better story than the guy that's asking for the spotlight. I don't know.
Oh,
it
I
was
hope I
it was
could.
also really weird. What's the director that Charles Shire and then Nancy Myers, right? She does all
Uh-huh.
the right. So it was before the event. Everybody was at the drinks thing, and it was crowded. And this woman comes up next to me, and you know, and I was just trying to make conversation because I got tired looking like an idiot just standing. Goes, so how are you here? You know, what are you doing? She goes, like she was offended. I'm Nancy Myers. I'm like, fuck you. I don't know what you really look like. I'm just being a nice guy asking you the question, and you're offended that I don't know who you are. Like that's the thing. Most of these people are just like, you know,
Yeah, fuck you. I didn't memorize the
that you
yearbook.
have to be the king all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
know,
to be exhausting.
so-
James,
so it's exhausting.
Well, you mentioned earlier because you made one of my favorite action films. But
Yeah,
you mentioned earlier we have a shared interest. You mentioned James Bond film.
Well, yes.
So I have to ask, what are some of your favorite James Bond films? What are some of the things that made you go, I want to do these action films?
Well, they are the reasons why I want to do action films. So, well, number one, I'll answer your question. There's not even a close. Goldfinger is my favorite James Bond of all time. But I do have to tell you, and I like bragging and name dropping. I'm friends with George Lazenby. I met him
That's
out
awesome.
here. I've had lunch with him. He's so awesome, and it's like my my life stream to know James Bond. I also was a storyboard artist on this movie Medicine Man that
Yeah.
starred
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
and so I got
Directed-
to walk like 20 feet behind him when he would go to his trailer. That was pretty neat. And then years ago, people used to mistake me for Steven Spielberg, even though I'm a foot taller than him. And I was delivering these storyboards. I was on this movie Live Wire that starred Pierce Brosnan.
Yep.
And
yes.
I'm across the set, and I hear Pierce Brosnan going, Steven, how's Hook? How's Hook? And he's looking at me, and I'm like, and everybody's looking. I'm really embarrassed, but I get close, and he goes, so how's the new movie Hook? And I'm like, I'm not Steven Spielberg. Oh, but of course you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm the storyboard artist. And he mistook me for, Steven Spielberg. So anyway, but I credit sort of James Bond for helping me through my childhood or my geekdom. When I got into 7th grade, I got really depressed. I used to cry before going to school. My parents were really worried about me. They sent me to a psychiatrist. I was just sad all the time. And the only thing that would bring me happiness was James Bond movies. I didn't listen to rock and roll when I did my homework, didn't know anything about the music business. What I did is I tape recorded the James Bond movies off the TV set, or I would sneak into a movie theater and record it. One time I was in a movie theater with my cassette player, and I tipped over the bag, and I had these extra batteries. And the batteries fell out, and they would roll down the incline, and people would hit there. What the hell is this stuff rolling down there? Because anyway, so I would just listen to the Bond movies on audio cassette over and over. I must have listened to all of the Bond movies all the way through the Roger Moore movies. I must have listened to each one of them like 300 times at least. Because every day, homework time, doing algebra, okay, it's Man with a Golden Gun. And so I love them. And then in 7th grade, I started reading the novels. I read all the Fleming novels in 6 months. And then I was so disappointed there were no more Bond novels that I started writing my own. And I wrote 2 Bond novels. They were at least 100 pages type, single space. They were the real deal. One was called Masquerade of Death, and the other one was called Spearhead. And they were not bad. And I think that also started me on the thinking, hey, maybe I do like storytelling. I also have the focus and discipline to create on a bigger scale. And I think it sort of made me think, maybe one day I'm going to do something with the storytelling. I got a little distracted because I could also draw and illustrate in comic books. And there's the visual and the verbal angle. And I started out by going to art school first, but then sort of swerved around to, be more of a writer, director, storyteller. But I love James Bond so much because I felt I got the glasses. I felt emasculated by them. I felt like I was a nerd. I felt unattractive. And James Bond represented the person I wish I could be. And I believe by escaping into these adventures, either on screen or on the page, brought me this joy and this escape from the sadness I was feeling as a kid. And so that's why I not only loved the Bond movies, I really kind of felt like they helped me through a very difficult time. I have this friend, Mike Sargent. He's in New York. He does a Sunday night show on movies and movie soundtracks. And he invited me on the weekend after Sean Connery died. And there was another geek on the show, and then he had another woman on the show who didn't really know that much about James Bond, but she heard me talk about James Bond and Sean Connery and how much it changed my life. And she says, you know, you have such an affinity for Bond and Sean Connery. You should be doing Connery's eulogy. And I thought that was a really great compliment. And so all I can say is I just love I love the Bond movies. Just like they're the greatest thing. And it wasn't until later that I realized that, you know, in the Connery Bond movies, they have this Ken Adams modernist architecture, you know, when you're in Dr. No, that he goes into the white room, but it's got the big ceiling, you know, with the hole in the ceiling, the window, and it's just it almost looks Star Warsian and its sleekness. And I realized part of what I liked about it was not just Bond, but the visual eye candy before movies became these big production designed eye candy pieces. The escapism, the islands, the boats, the cars with the gadgets, they were all, they're kind of the same boys with toys thing that they put into Star Wars. You just love everything in it. And I tended to like the secret agent movies better than like everybody, well, let's go see Dirty Harry. I'm like, all he does is as a big gun, he walks around. There's nothing sleek. Nobody looks great. The girls are all, you know, just wearing everyday clothes. There's nothing fantastical about it. And then the stories are very mundane. And so again, I told you how narrow my taste was, but part of it is not only was Bond was great, they were a fantasy, and everything, the visuals, the clothing, the globetrotting. I just fell in love with it. And that's what makes things like The Incredibles so fun. It's not just that you had these superheroes, but they had like a James Bond modernist aesthetic. And you look at Spider-Man or sometimes Iron Man, you can see in Tony Stark's place that they have a sense of the architecture, but it's not consistent. And the Bond production designs, you know, like they even made those special sleds in Thunderball for the underwater fight. And the fact that they made it orange versus black. I mean, the orange is like he's an easy target for the spear gun. They would be better off wearing dark green or dark because you're not a target. But they made it such a great visual, you know, by doing the orange.
Thunderball is my favorite Bond film. I love
Thunderball.
My favorite. Sorry.
Okay.
Lying.
Now, here's the thing about it.
By the way, Michael, James is lying. It's Moonraker. So we'll move on.
Well, no. Well, there's a lot of great things about Moonraker. Okay, there are a lot of great things about it, but there's some things that could have gone better. But I do love. I mean, the golden era of Roger Moore is The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Those are like Goldfinger and Thunderball together. Thunderball is almost there. It's a little bit draggy, especially when they're at the shrublands, which is the place where they send Bond to recover. It's a little bit slow, and Emilio Largo, Adolfo Celli, is not as flamboyant an actor as Gert Frobe is in Goldfinger.
I agree. It's Goldfinger is the superior villain.
But I'm with James. Thunderball is my favorite. Yeah.
The cinematic achievement of the underwater battle, and Thunderball was the first movie I ever saw. I saw it on 42nd Street on a big screen, and I was just like bonkers, fifth grade. And if they had the Aston Martin as the first time they had the Aston Martin, because that's just so iconic, But I did love the jetpack at the beginning and the real, and there was a real jetpack that was really great. And I love the hydrofoil thing where they crash and he's fighting during the fight. There's so many things, but again, there's a better henchman in Goldfinger with Oddjob.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the thing that most spy movies, they're not the best at character or having character scenes. But that whole golfing scene where Bond is playing Goldfinger, and you hardly ever have the villain and the hero together for an extended period of time.
Right.
And the character interplay in that is just the best interplay of secret agent with villain. But I'm Thunderball. I love it so much. I can't argue with you. I would argue with people, oh, it's from Russia with Love because it's more realistic and it doesn't get to be so crazy, right? Or
I go to movies for crazy.
What's that?
Yeah.
I go to movies for crazy. That's why I go.
Me too. Yeah. And you know, and like, well, you go back to you're talking about the Southern accents, right? And I'm like, you know, they have this Jimmy Dean, you know, in Diamonds Are Forever, and I only eat Jimmy Dean sausages. And I would listen to the recording. He goes, "Come on, Bond," and I'm like, Southerner, "Come on, Bond."
Well,
But you're right, Michael, though. It's Goldfinger. I've argued with the other two for years, so it's just great that not only am I the most
you now
handsome,
have
I'm
the
also the most
authority.
accurate now. So thank you.
Well, hold on,
Well,
Michael.
I do want to say,
Michael, I just hope you do me a favor and tell Joe that Alien sucks.
Oh, I can't. I like Aliens better than Aliens. Hold on,
Damn
I have
it.
to show you. I gotta show you something here. If I can find it. Where did I put this?
Sorry, James.
Hold on, keep talking because I'm going to
Well,
show you on my screen if I can find it.
James has a
I
question.
do have to. No, I do have
I'm
to say you
listening.
mentioned The Spy Who Loved Me. It's probably one of the greatest things I ever pulled off in my marriage. My wife and I got married. Our first dance together was a theme from.
Well, see, that is a great song.
The Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah, yeah. Nobody does it better.
Where did I put this? I wanted to show you this picture of Harold Sakata that my cousin, who I never met, but he sold Harold Sakata. I can't find it. I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
photos of him selling a Mercedes to Harold Sakata. But like I love this. Can you see my these?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that
You
is
have any
very
of these?
awesome.
They're really and
Oh,
look at
that
that
is
Goldfinger,
awesome.
right?
That's
That's
awesome.
a pretty awesome Goldfinger.
yeah, that is
Anyway.
awesome.
But the thing is that I get so frustrated with Moonraker because I love the production design. That space station set is so beautiful, right? But and then you look at I thought that the fight, basically Moonraker, when they're having the fight with the soldiers, the Americans, whatever, that should have looked as good as the scuba diving fight in Thunderball. I'm saying it's again, they're taking the great basically formula, having the big fight where Bond is in it. Bond is hardly in the fight, and everybody moves so slowly. There is no cinema to it. And they had this opportunity, and the technology really was there to do something really cool. And that it's sort of like, you have me, this could be the best Roger Moore movie. And it's, and the actor that plays Hugo Drax is sort of really underplays it. But they have so many great things with Jaws, with the magnet when he's fighting him in there, and that's so great. And talking about that modernist art design, Hugo. I mean, now I'm jumping. I'm not Moonraker. I'm going back to Spy Who Loved Me. I'm sorry, but
That's
the
okay.
great thing about Spy Who Loved Me is his underwater thing that would come up and under the water. And rather than having square windows, they were the ovals, and it has that very sleek, just modernistic architecture. Was really fun to watch. And
Okay.
I'm glad that Jaws doesn't die in Moonraker. And it is really interesting when he realizes that he and his girlfriend are not part of the arc, and he switches sides, but they do it a little too goofily, But
Yeah.
there's a lot of great things in Moonraker.
Okay. I hate to change the subject, but we are here to talk about you. And
No,
Chad,
okay.
do you want to ask him a question about one of
Yeah,
our
I'll
previous
ask him.
guests?
So one of our friends of our show, and it's honestly one of my favorite episodes because he gave us so many wonderful stories about working in Hollywood. Is Peter Von Schally,
Oh, okay.
and
Now,
you worked on the pre-hysteria films.
and I vaguely, I don't have a great story about Peter. You know, for a second I had to think, oh yeah, 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 and he did all the animatronics, right?
Yeah.
He's a
Okay.
storyboard art, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a storyboard artist. Okay.
Well, he also wrote the films too.
Okay. Well. See, he wrote the. Well, see, maybe I'm not going to tell the best story. So
That's okay.
I ended up getting to direct my first movie, Beanstalk, because of Prehysteria.
Right.
So
Okay.
what happened is that I turned in Beanstalk as a writer, and I kept saying I want to direct this. Well, yeah, well, maybe Michael. And then I got a call, and it was a week before they were going to shoot Prehysteria 2. And apparently the director did not like the script. And they said, Michael, is it possible for you to do a rewrite in a week? Because we're not changing the schedule. We're all set to go. And I said, yeah, I can do it. And the thing that I always find that in movies is a lot of times they make the main character boring and they give all the interesting, eccentric stuff to the secondary characters. Now, here you're having a story about a little girl in a miniature golf course, which makes sense, right? But she's just a regular girl. She's boring, right? And so how am I going to make her interesting? Well, I always loved. You ever seen this biking movie, Breaking Away?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Do you remember what's the guy? Dennis Christopher is the lead actor. You remember how he's always talking in Italian because he wants
Because
to be
he's
like,
obsessed with the Italian cycle.
that's right.
And it
And
takes
so
place in Indiana.
Yeah. Okay. It was an awesome movie. Okay.
Yeah. Dennis
So
Quaid.
yeah. And with Daniel Stern in that movie.
Daniel
too?
Stern's also in it. I'm sorry,
Okay,
I saw
so
an article. Daniel Stern's autobiography came out this week, and he's been doing interviews. And I was reading one, and he was talking.
No
about
way, because Daniel Stern went to a high school that was near my high school. My brother used to see him at basketball games, but then my wife worked for Daniel for a while.
Oh, really?
So he's a really nice guy. But so what I did was I decided to make this girl obsessed with golf. And because golf was invented by the Scots, she's American, but she's always talking like a Scottish soccer hooligan. I can't do but it's really funny to have her sound like Sean. She's a big Sean Connery fan. And then she likes eating haggis, right? She likes wearing the kilts. She knows how to play the back. Now, all of a sudden, she's this weird kid. And so every scene I could enliven with some kind of Scottish angle. And so I wrote the script in a week and they loved it. Charlie Band loved it. The director loved it, and they went and filmed it. And then, like a month later, they were going to do Prehysteria 3 because they had all the sets up and it's cheaper to do it. And they said, but this time they said, Michael, we're shooting it in 4 days. I know you rewrote the script, a page 1 rewrite in 7 days. Could you do it in 4 days? And they go, if you do it, we'll let you direct Beanstalk. And so that was a great deal. So I just stayed up like 24 hours straight, 3 or 4 days in a row, and I rewrote Prehysteria 3, and they loved the script. They went on and filmed it. And then that's how I got to direct Beanstalk, is I basically did these super fast rewrites on Prehysteria.
That's awesome.
So I got to ask about Beanstalk for just one reason only. I would like to hear about your first directing experience to see how that was for you. But also, too, I got to ask because one of my childhood idols was Richard Mole.
Okay, sure.
And I would love to hear not only a story about how it was just directing your first movie, but also I would love if you have a great story about Richard Mole.
Well, I don't know if I have a great it's an interesting story, but I have to tell you that Richard Mole was one of the actors that was very supportive of me.
Yeah.
And after the movie was done, he befriended me. He invited me. I'm not a very good schmoozer, but he had invited me to a bunch of these different Hollywood parties with some of his friends. And it was really me not being good at schmoozing, but he embraced me. He thought I was a talent. He thought it would be good to know me after this because he thought maybe I would go on to other things and I would hire him. And for me, I was really excited because it felt like my first movie. I had Margot Kidder in it, right? I had
Right.
Maul. I had Stuart Pankin. The
Mhm.
kid, J.D. Daniels, was one of the stars of The Mighty Ducks for a
Mhm.
little straight-to-video movie. And then I'm going to tell you a little side story. So you know this anime Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah.
Oh yes, I love Cowboy Bebop.
Okay, so years later, I was doing this proof of concept animation piece that I was making myself, and I asked my friend Yuri Lowenthal, who's a big anime voice actor. He was Sasuke in Naruto. I said, do you think, he was helping me get actors for free for this 5-minute short, and I said, do you know Steve Bloom? He does the voice of Spike Spiegel on Cowboy Bebop. Oh yeah, I know Steve Bloom. Do you think he would voice the hero in this piece? Would you ask him? And so he said, and I got some email back, and Steve was going to meet me for a recording session. And then when we were there, Steve Bloom walks into the recording session and he says, I go, hi, Steve. And he go, great to meet you. And he goes, oh, you don't remember? We've met before. You don't remember me, do you? And I go, no. And he goes, you gave me my first on-screen acting job where I got to say a line, and I put it in my reel. I'm like, oh my God, what a great, it's kismet that I got you, And so he was very happy to work for me for free on this little freebie job because I had put him in Beanstalk and given him this job where he got to actually be on screen and not a voice actor. And I thought that was really cool.
Awesome.
The thing that I tell people about directing, especially at the level of movies I've made, the indie movies, and then even shoot 'em up, is that the real talent is time management. And that's where experience comes in, is you have to look at a script and say, I can shoot this scene in a quarter a day or a half a day. And because we're at the same location, this scene is a little bit longer, more ambitious. But if I'm really smart about it, I can shoot these 2 scenes in one day, not a day and a half, and we can get out of this location. We don't have to do a company move in the middle of the day and run around town. And it's really about envisioning what you can accomplish in the amount of time that you have. And I did not have that on Beanstalk. And I remember what one of the crew members said to me on Beanstalk, and kind of took the glamour. I think the first or second day, they said, Michael, I understand that this is your dream to direct a movie, but for the rest of us, it's not our dream. We'd like to go home on time to go see our families. It's no fun for us to stay late. And it's true. And it made me very much aware that it's a job to them. They like their job. They want to do a good job. But at the end of the day, there's no benefit for them whether we get the stay late and get the few extra shots to make the scene better or not. And that was the first time that I realized that time management was really important, and that maybe I would get more out of the crew if I was more aware of what their needs were. Right now, there are other productions, and probably not Charlie Band's, but on other productions, they actually like the overtime because they go into time and a half and then double time, especially on union shows. They love overtime because wow, they double it, right?
Yeah.
And so but on a low budget thing, a lot of these people are on flats. And on Beanstalk, I wanted this house that sort of looked like an old Tudor English house. And there was one way down in Long Beach. And so they have this thing in Hollywood, a zone, where it's considered a local shoot within, if you're in the perimeter of this thing, right? And they do it within the perimeter of the circular area, and the center of it is your production office. And Long Beach was just barely within calling it a local, but it's still, like, with traffic, it might be an hour and 10 minutes to get home, right? Well, if you think the morning and the afternoon, you have a 12-hour shoot, that's 14 hours. And then if you're doing it day after day, people get really tired. And there's a safety issue, and you don't want someone falling asleep at the wheel. And especially on low budget movies, you really want to take care of that. And I ended up on 8 days a week. The crew had been working really long hours, and again, we shot out in this town, Monrovia, which is outside LA, but it looks like suburbia. And they shot that series, Picket Fences, there. But it was a long commute for everybody. And I remember the second to last, the last night, the next day would be our last shooting day. And I made them go really late. It was like 11:30. And I said, you know what? Leave all the equipment up. Don't pack up the lights. Just go. I'm going to stay here on the set and be the guard. So we don't even have to wrap anything. Just walk away. I'm going to be here. I'll stay up all night, or I'll keep an eye on it so you can go home. Right now, I also felt like I had already taken advantage of them. I got to 11:30. The one thing I could do is just, stay there. But I was stupid. I didn't have a jacket, and it got really freaking cold. I was in this little camper thing, and I was freezing my ass off. So I literally could stay up all night, keeping an eye on all the stuff. And then the actor Josh Schaefer, his favorite story of me on 8 days a week was, I was so lucky that there was a one street that had the perfect house for our Kerry Russell's house, but also in real life, the houses across the street were exactly the way the different characters were in the script. And this was the one street in all of Monrovia that they never shot their street for picket fences. And they kind of felt offended. And I had to knock on the door and I go, look, I'm an independent filmmaker. We want to shoot on the street, but we're going to have, and I explained to them what would happen, and we'll pay you $100 a week for 2 weeks for us to basically be on your street filming. And they all said yes, unbelievably, and they didn't negotiate for more money. And part of it was they wanted to film the movie there. But the one thing I said is, I'm going to make sure that if we are there, there's going to be no trash, no cans, no nothing. Every night it's going to be spick and span. Your neighborhood is not going to be trashed during this time. And so my actor Josh was in his little trailer, and it had a little door open up to the lawns. And he remembers it's like 11 o'clock at night, and he sees me hunched over picking up cigarette butts, right? And I would just, go by his view, and then he'd see me pass through. And I was just this picking, and I'm the director, but I don't want to lose the location because I'm screwed. And so I would, at the end of the day, be picking up the trash. And that's what you have to do on an independent film. You have to kill yourself, as a director, whether you're staying up all night to guard the set, or to or to clean up after yourself. On Beanstalk, I had 12 days, and this is trying to get back to your question. And the movie was basically a little kid against a giant, and they gave me 25 visual effects shots. and you remember, you have to at least have a couple shots of it growing, right? You have to have a couple shots of it either being cut down, and then, how do you do that? And I was always pleased with the ingenuity of one of the big encounters with the giant, that it's a big action scene, and I only burned 3 visual effects shots in the whole thing. And what it was is, those checkered white and red tablecloths you see at the Italian restaurants?
Yeah.
Well, I found out that you could also get that fabric with giant versions of that. And so I basically did a visual effect shot of the giant, and then we superimposed visual effect shot of the little kid. But then the kid would climb in a hole that was a tear in the tablecloth, and so he's underneath the tablecloth. And so I could do like as many shots as I wanted with a little puppet, pushing up on the fabric of Jack running, right? And so you can see the geography that the little kid, where he is in relationship to the giant, because you don't want to keep cutting away, and they're never tied together. And so I puppeted him, and then I filmed the real actor underneath this giant version of the red and white checkerboard table, and he was running all around, and he was dodging fists, and eventually he gets the little splinter that the giant, impales himself on, and is so hurt that Jack can get away. And so it was this extended 3-minute action sequence that I only had 3 visual effects shots. And I just like the ingenuity of solving that for a super duper low budget movie.
Yeah, it is amazing.
So those are kind of my memories of the movie. I mean, I'm a little bit saddened in that when I first wrote the script, I made the cryptozoologist, the person that I always wanted them to be like a Doc Brown in Back to the Future. And the one note I got was, could you make her a woman? Because we thought that's more original than just copying a Christopher Lloyd. And so Margot Kidder came in. Obviously, I was a big Superman fan. And I do remember when she came in to meet, she was going to get the job, but sometimes you still like to meet them to see whether or not they're really enthusiastic for it. And she was talking about how they were going to do with Canon Films Superman 4, and they had like no money for it. And Margot Kidder says, I was there with Menachem Golan, and he said, do you know how we're going to make, Superman 4 with very little money? In this movie, Superman, he no fly. and I like that. But, she kind of was suffering from depression, that one point they found her. And that worked for me in the movie because my character is sort of really crazy and scatterbrained. She knew all her lines, but her demeanor was very much like Doc Brown. And she was kind of paranoid. She kept thinking that someone had broken into her house, that someone had stolen her computer. I sent members of my crew to her house to make sure that the locks were working and that, the house wasn't ransacked, that she felt safe. And I'm not sure what happened. She said she lost her autobiography because somebody stole her computer. But my friends went there and everything, the house was not ransacked. It looked, and they felt like some of it might have been in her head. And so I was saddened because we were seeing the beginning of the decline of her, and it worked for the movie, but it wasn't great for her. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
those are my beanstalk stories.
No, well, really quick, we've been so lucky and had so many wonderful filmmakers on the show, but I've never got to meet him, but we never let someone go who's worked with Charlie Band without asking them their favorite Charlie Band story. Now, I'm not going to ask you if he owes you money. We've had, I don't know if you know C. Courtney Joyner. He's also a writer.
I've met him. I wouldn't recognize him, but I know I've met him, and I know I've emailed with him.
He's one of the few people who's ever looked at us and said, no, I'm the only one in Hollywood Charlie doesn't owe money to.
Oh, I do have, this is not a Charlie Band story that is me, but here is probably the greatest Charlie. Well, I have two great Charlie Band stories, but I'm going to tell you the best one first.
Always ask.
Okay. Has anybody ever told you how Charlie first made his money so he could finance his movies?
No.
I've heard him talk about it a little bit.
Did he tell you about buying? Okay, you stop me if you've heard this story.
No, please go.
So Charlie's a young man, and he's reading through some newspaper, the New York Times, the LA Times, whatever, and somebody had collected every New York Times from 1920 to contemporary. And they wanted to put it up for sale. And Charlie didn't know what he was going to do with this, but he thought it'd be really interesting. And he called the guy and he made a super low ball offer. And the guy said, I'll take it on one condition. You got to come and take it away. I'm not delivering this. And literally it was housed in 2 warehouses. And Charlie had to come and deliver the script and the check, and then get rid of all these newspapers, the New York Times. And so he gets a bunch of vans, some, moving trucks. He gets his friends with all their cars, and they do this road warrior, convoy to this guy's location. And he was in Phoenix or something. And they pick up all the New York Times, right? And they pick it up and they move it back to LA, and they're all over his house. And now he goes, what the hell am I going to do with these things? Well, they had this thing you may or may not remember, that you could buy the cover of the New York Times the day you were born, right?
I had a college professor talk about this. Yeah.
That was Charlie Band who started that.
I did not know that.
I'd
never heard this story, and he has never told this story that I know. I've never heard him do it.
But it might have been that Charlie, within a year, it did so well, somebody offered to buy the collection off of him and really market the shit out of it. And so the guy gave him $1 million after Charlie had paid $5,000 or less for the whole collection. And then Charlie had $1 million to start making his movies. And so whatever you say about Charlie Band is he had a really great vision and an idea. He didn't know, but he went for it. Now, here's the second story I'll tell you, and why you ask, oh, I'm not going to ask you if Charlie Band owes you money or whatever.
I'm not.
But here is how he learned that it was okay to do that. So, and I liked his dad. Do you ever anybody talk about Albert Band, his dad?
A
And so
little bit.
okay, so Albert Band ended up being John Huston's protege. Pretty cool.
Mhm.
But a part of his career, he lived in Italy, filming spaghetti westerns.
Yeah,
And he
Charlie
had
had,
his-
the castle over there and shot all of his
Well, that's
movies?
in Romania. Was
In
in Italy or Romania?
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was.
I
in-
know it might no, it might be in Italy. I think you're right. But so they would stay during the movies. They would go into these hotels. Charlie and his dad and his mom and his brother would stay there, and they'd live the life of Riley, a great, restaurant in the hotel or everything. And then in the middle of the night, Albert would take his family and they would sneak out of the hotel and not pay their bills, right? Well, as a kid, you talk about nature versus nurture. Well, here's the thing: nurture is teaching him how to cheat people,
Mhm.
right? And that's where he kind of, I actually think that Charlie is one of these people. They say 1 in 30 persons is like a sociopath,
Yes.
where they don't really have a. I think he might be one of those 1 in 30 people, but it didn't help that his dad, was showing his son, let's go cheat these people. So, but Charlie, gave me my first shot. He was always very friendly, always very enthusiastic. I always liked it. He had this board, this room, 200 films by the year 2000. And his main thing was he never told you what story to write as long as your story matched the one sheet that he had already sold for that movie.
That's absolutely
And
correct. Yeah.
And I don't know how much he loved the movies, but I think he loved having this empire, right? And, as I said, I met Steve Bloom there. I met all these great people that were Full Moon people. My friend Rob Burnett, you ever watch this show, Robservations on, he's another YouTuber. I met Rob at Charlie Band's.
Yeah,
Wow.
we had Jeff, if you know the director Jeff Burr.
Yeah, and Jeff just died, right?
Jeff just died, and he was
he was the nicest.
he was.
Yeah.
We
I
have
love
we had an invitation to go down. He lived in Dalton, Georgia, and we were supposed to, and then COVID. And that's just one of our. I was driving back. I was telling somebody a few months ago. I was driving back through Georgia and just started almost wanted to tear up, going, "Why didn't I take advantage of this?" You just never know. But he's a great guest, wonderful friend of the show. We had a mutual friend, but yeah, he had almost wonderful things to say about Charlie.
Well, everybody.
Not great things to say. By the way.
Not great things.
Not great things. I was being sarcastic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I always. I when you see him, he wasn't like a super expensive dresser, but he would make these low budget movies, but he always looked sharp, and he always had this energy and excitement. And I don't know, I mean he owed me money, but I never felt like, a lot of people when Full Moon went under, there was this big lawsuit that you'd sign up to see, when they sold all of his things, you could get a little piece of your money back. And I could have signed on to that group, but I just said, fuck, it's not going to be very much money. He gave me my first directing shot. I knew when I worked for him that he had this reputation. And I just decided, it doesn't matter. I'd rather have the funny stories and that it was super positive and not remember. But I saw Charlie years later at like a comic book convention. I felt a little bit sad because he was just selling these Puppet Master dolls, right? And it was like he was building this beautiful. The reason he went under is he took this property, which was literally 5 minutes from his house. It was old warehouse. And he was redoing it. All the inside beautifully carpeted. All the hallways had posters. And it was like a big, like high-end Hollywood, not only empire, because most people rent their offices, his offices, development. There was a cafeteria, and then you had these 2 warehouses that he turned into sound suites, parking lots, a little bit of back lot. And it was like his little mini empire. He spent a ton of money on it, and it looked really great. And it would have been a great place to succeed. And it was 5 minutes from my house, right? I could almost throw a rock and hit it, right? And so it's just, I'd like to remember that rather than all the other stuff. But then he continued on. Did you ever interview this filmmaker, Dave Dakota, who did a bunch of Charlie movies?
No.
he directed, I think, one or two of the pre-hysteria movies. Dave could talk about time management. Charlie would say, okay, you got 11 days to make the movie. Dave would finish the movie in 9 days, and he wouldn't even use the other 2 days to do pickups or little inserts or whatever, like just be relaxed. Nope, 9 days, I saved the money. And at the end, he was making movies for Charlie. He would shoot the movie in 3 days. He could shoot movies in 3 days. Now, I couldn't do that because I like composition, the craft, having a vision. I think Dave just liked being out on the set, being the king. But 3 days? Anyway, you should check him out. Dave Dakota.
Yeah, I'm sure we've seen some of the stuff he's directed and whatnot, but and I didn't mean to get off on the chart, but it's always the question of tell us your best Charlie Band story.
Well, I think that New York Times thing is a win.
I think that's a
Oh, yeah.
fantastic one that I
Yeah.
didn't know. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
turn it over to one of the other boneheads for next. Go ahead, James.
Well, I want to talk about several different things, but I do want to talk a little bit about Shoot 'em Up, because one of the things that, and if this is incorrect, but I went back and I read some newspapers from around the time it was coming out, before it came out, and I found a quote from Clive Owen, who said, and let me quote, "It was tricky. Michael Davis animated all the action sequences. He storyboarded the entire film frame by frame. In some ways, what we had to do was execute it as close to the storyboards as we could. The whole film has this heightened reality to it." And then there's a quote later on that you had 17,000 drawings to create 15 minutes of animation to sell the film.
No, that's absolutely accurate. And you can get on the DVD, they have all the animation on there.
Yep.
You know, my only frustration is for some reason they wanted to, they felt like there's already too much action. There was one sequence, I think it's in the extras, that we cut it out. The one where he's being cornered and he's running down the alley and he shoots the wall and he shoots these little pivots so he can climb up the alley. It's only 30 seconds, but I thought it was awesome. And I wish that was in the film. But, you know, most actors, you know, even like Ewan McGregor was talking about the Star Wars, about acting to the green screen. There's not even any, they all like, you know, the making everything feel, they want the other actor to give back to them and all this stuff. And I was very much more relaxed in the dramatic scenes because I felt like that was where the actors could, and I was not one of these maniacs that has to be like the storyboards for that. But I felt like the action scenes had a certain music to them and a certain pace because, you know, have you ever seen an action scene and you feel like there's something just a little bit draggy, that something's weighting it down, and there's not enough coverage, and it's sort of like, again, it's like if you listen to a symphony and there's the percussion and they're at a certain pace, and then the horns and then and horns, right? What's sort of like this? It's like cut, 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 whoa, cut, 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 whoa, or cut, 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 bam, right? And that was really important to me, and most of the stuff was actually important. Like if you look at the scene where he ends up flying through his own windshield and into the windshield of the van, the thing that really, well, I'm gonna, a lot of times there are action movies that actually have, most action movies, the stuff is not very clever and it's not very interesting. It's really bland action. But every once in a while I'll see that is actually a really good idea, but they don't get all the pieces to tell the story, to show you how clever it is. They shoot it very objectively. And part of that is it can happen really quickly. But like in the car scene is, you want to understand how cool it is that he's going to go through these windshields, is that he's driving and then he shoots out his own windshield. You go, what the fuck is he doing? But now you'll later on understand that he opened it up because he doesn't want to go through his own windshield, right? And then he takes off his seatbelt, right? And I always like it for the audience when they're going, how is he going to get out of this? And then they give you the little bit of clues. So when it happens, it's not like this big surprise, but when you kind of know what his plan is, it kind of makes you become the hero. When you get inside his head that you kind of figure out what he's thinking, then it's a dream state where you actually are Clive Owen in that moment. And it makes it more exciting because then you're living it, right? And so yes, I had to follow the storyboards, but the storyboards were there building blocks, right? And then I had to have them getting closer and closer. And then I needed the shot with the two cars colliding, right? And all those pieces, right? And so, yes, I was tyrannical about that, but it was for the sake of good storytelling. The thing that I get excited about, I guess the theme of the show is, time management. So I was always frustrated on Shoot 'em Up because everybody treated me like I was a first-time director, right?
Yeah,
And I had already directed 4 or 5 movies prior to this, right?
absolutely.
And I directed movies in 10 days, 12 days, 15 days, right? 20 days, right? And I'm like, you're giving me 50 days. It's got to be easier doing it in 50 days than 15 days or 10 days, right? And I had learned time management, right? But before the movie started, they had the head of production New Line, was going to give me the stern talking to. And it was this guy, Leon Dudovor. And this guy was this really tough guy. And he used to be a production manager, a line producer, but he was in a wheelchair because he was in an accident on set one time in some car scene. And so he no longer could be a line producer. But he was basically a production guy at the studio. And he says, Michael, you do not get behind schedule. The moment you get behind schedule, I'm going to fly up to Toronto and you do not want to see me on your set. I will make your life a living hell. I'm like, dude, I get that. I mean, I've made movies for low budget. I said, I don't like confrontation. I am not going to get behind schedule because I'm not one of these crazy filmmakers that has to have everything. I like making my days. So the last week of filming, right, there comes Leon in his wheelchair. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing here? We're doing great. And Leon says, don't worry. I'm here because my 2 other productions are such nightmares. And you're getting more shots and more coverage than these 2 films put together. And one of them was a Brett Ratner movie. I just needed to see a production with a well-oiled set that was a success. So I'm here to back you. And I'm like, great. And that was all about, again, that's a testament to time management. It's all about time management,
Well, it's because Brett Ratner was doing 31 takes during a Rush Hour film.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably.
That's what I've read, is that he does a lot of takes. So I don't know.
You know what? I'll have to tell you my Brett Ratner story. But I have to tell you off the air because I don't want him to get mad at me. And I wish I had taken him up on it. I ran into him at New Line and he thought, he's a friendly guy, really nice guy. He invited me to his house to one of his famous parties. And I felt like I should get to know the Hollywood elite because the more people you know, they could help you in the future. And I wish I had found a way to go to his house to one of his parties. So I have a very, very funny Brett Ratner story, but I'm not going to tell it because he was nice to me. But I'll tell you off the air.
I understand.
Well,
if we had a quarter for every time, go ahead, James.
Well, I was going to say, and I'm so glad that you were tyrannical about your storyboards, because if anybody's listening to this and you haven't seen Shoot 'em Up, go watch Shoot 'em Up, because I was telling my son is of a certain age, that it's John Wick, right? It's John Wick, and I told him, like, you don't understand. This. You deserve probably way more credit than you get for this. Everybody seems to have discovered these highly stylistic action films, and you did it first. This is
yeah, but again,
and John Woo, yes.
Yeah, well, I stole a lot from John Woo. In his movies, obviously, he was a success in his territory and was a cult hit here. But he was successful enough in his own territory that he could live as a successful filmmaker. I've always had to fight. Each time I made a movie, I had to reinvent myself to figure out another way to make a movie. And after this, we should probably show the Blast 'em Up thing because I don't want to go too far. People are probably going to go, I'm going to watch the rest of the show. But
well, that's okay. And we didn't.
There's a level of luck that happens, right? And I mean, I even have to tell you, when I was trying to come up with good stories, and I'm a dog person, I think this thing about, well, maybe I should have a action movie where the hero is rescuing his dog that he loves so much, right? Well, they had him. I guess they killed his dog at some point. The John Wick movies are awesome. They have some really great action in it. But I also have to say the photography is beautiful.
Yes.
And I had even thought at the time, maybe I should get Keanu Reeves to star in Shoot 'Em Up. But I was thinking it's so hard to get actors, right? And I thought he'd already done the ultimate gunfight in the first Matrix. That's so great. Why would he want to do another? Had I known how much he loved action and he rehearsed and dedicated, maybe if I'd gone and gotten Keanu Reeves, maybe the movie would have been more of a success, because by the time Shoot 'Em Up came out, Clive was still not a household name in America where a Keanu Reeves was. And a lot of it is like, people go to the movies because I love Jason Statham. Oh, I'm going to go see that because, Liam Neeson. And I had thought about Keanu Reeves, but I didn't know whether I could get him. And again, when you go around with your script and making offers, you don't want too many people to turn it down, because then the studio starts getting, maybe this is not such a good project, and they put the brakes on it. So again, it's all about, and at the time, I mean, I was totally enamored, and I still am, with Clive Owen. I think he's awesome. He's perfect. He was my #1 choice. I loved him in Croupier. I thought he would be a great action hero, aesthetically, everything, but maybe from a marketing standpoint, maybe if I had Keanu Reeves, this would have been John Woo. But how was I to know? And the only thing I would say about the John Woo movies is that there probably is as much action, or almost as much action, but they have what I call more of the foreplay, where it's just bang, 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 beautiful, run, run, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And then they do the clever thing. Well, I decided in Shoot 'Em Up I don't need all the foreplay. Let's get to the most creative thing first. And I don't have time to shoot all the foreplay, but I want to make sure I get all the shots right for the thing that's clever, whether it's the spinning of the carousel, or him shooting everybody while he's making love, or he shoots the guy and he uses the parachute as a shield or whatever, to blind the guy or whatever. I want to get the stuff that's clever. And if I have to cut out the ramp up into the cool thing, that's okay. But because they have more money on the John Wick movies, I don't want to say it's fat. They have more of the foreplay and ramp up before you get to think, oh, that's fucking awesome. And I think the thing that makes Shoot 'Em Up really kind of absurd but fun is it's almost all the cool thing. There's none of the thing that is the lead up. It's just you get to it, right? He's shooting. If it is a gunfight, you're at least getting a joke about the guy's ponytail. And then he's delivering a baby. Well, you don't wait too long. You don't really, it's obvious in this movie he would shoot the umbilical cord because that's the tone of the movie, you know. Or you go upstairs, and you think, oh, he spells "fuck you" with the sun. You think that's really great, but then you didn't notice that I could do "fuck you" too, which is like, they milked the scene for everything. That's awesome, right? They didn't miss a trick. It's jam packed, and if it's not cool, I don't film it.
And that's real quick to go back. To make 2 points. Well, to go back what you just said, I am glad you didn't go with your gut and get. I'm glad you went with your gut and went with Clive, because I don't think Keanu could have delivered those lines the way that Clive did.
Well, I do have to say, so there are some kind of quips in there, eat your fucking vegetables and they're fine, but they weren't in the original script. And when we first screened it, we discovered that we needed to let the audience know that they had to have fun,
right?
And they had fun throughout. And so they said in our pickups, can you do some quips? And they're fine, but some of the people that when they make fun of the movies, they say how bad the quips are. No worse than the Roger Moore quips, but they're fine. I'm happy with them. But maybe the movie would be a hair cooler because people think that I felt like I had to put the dumb joke in there. And in fact, they made me put the dumb joke in there. And the movie might have been just a hair cooler if they felt like I was restrained from the typical Hollywood movie quip, right?
Yeah. And I'm not even talking about the quip. I'm talking about like the specific stuff you put in there where he's ranting about the stuff that really bothers him.
The shit that actually bothers you in real life, right, Michael?
That's true.
Yeah.
Again, you know what?
The turn signal and stuff like that.
I don't think Keanu could have pulled it off the way Clive did, because you feel the anger that it drives.
I think you're right because, I got to watch Keanu Reeves. He had executive produced some documentary, and my wife loves Keanu Reeves. And I think he's got a Zen quality for him, which makes him a great Neo.
Yeah.
And every actor that has a certain persona that then does a movie that their persona is perfect for, it really elevates the movie to greatness. And I think in real life that Keanu Reeves is not an angry person, even though he's had a lot of tragedy happen in his life, but he's figured out to be Zen about it. And you're right. I don't know whether or not he could have made you feel be the angriest man in the world. You're right about that. Yeah.
And what I was also going to say is that whole style of it just goes boom, 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 boom. That's what, and I'm kissing your ass a little bit, but that's what I like about your style, because you don't only see that in Shoot 'Em Up, but you also see that in 100 Girls. I mean, you pretty much start at 100 Girls and don't stop. I mean, it hits the ground running. I mean, you start right off and they're fucking in the elevator. Which,
Yeah,
by the way,
I guess you're right. But again, the thing is that it isn't in the elevator. Isn't there a stylized silhouette thing that he had?
And I was going to say, I loved your style. And by the way, I can't look at my dick ever again, thanks to you, because of that
Well,
scene.
no one else can look at it either.
Okay. All right.
Well,
But thank you for the compliment. That's really
but
great.
also too, it's like with Monster Man too. Now, granted, Monster Man starts out a little slow, but once that action picks up, it doesn't stop. I mean, it's just constantly going.
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so I have to. So I'll go back to and I'll address that, and I agree with you. But so 100 Girls and 100 Women, I was working for the same producers of Monster Man, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they paid me so little money that every movie I went into a little bit of credit card debt. And I was getting to the point where I have to do something else with my life because I can't keep going into debt, right? And I felt like these guys were taking advantage of me. And they had pre-sold, I talked about Charlie Band's pre-selling things based on posters. They had pre-sold a movie called Monster Man that they thought could be their version of the X-Men. And I'm like, no, X-Men sounds science-y and superhero. Monster Man is not X-Men. It's a horror movie, but they didn't have a script, or they lost their project. They never got a good script. So they came to me, how do you like to do a horror film? And we're going to do it even cheaper, and we're going to give you more of the back end, which I never got. But you can write anything that you want to fit the poster. And if I had been smart, okay, and wanted the horror film to maybe be like elevate me, I would have done something that was totally consistent. The best horror is without comedy. I mean, Sam Raimi is great, but if you want to scare people and have them on there, you really can't break the tone, right?
No,
Right.
it's Texas Chainsaw, it's The Exorcist, it's Psycho. Yeah.
Right. And you look at somebody like James Wan and all that, who has built a career. He did some of the Fast movies. He did Aquaman. He's gone from the ghetto of horror movies to being a big director. And if I had wanted to use the horror film maybe as another Rolodex, but I was kind of convinced at this point in my life that these straight to video movies I used to think that they would get me the attention to get a studio movie, and I had basically decided they weren't. That if I were going to continue on, I should just embrace being the straight to video director and maybe make a little bit of money. But I was unhappy with the people that I was working for. And I was thinking, well, if I'm going to do a horror film, I don't want to say I wanted to make it easy on myself, but I decided I would do something that I knew I could do well, that was in my wheelhouse. And the buddy comedy that was in 8 Days a Week or 100 Girls or 100 had worked. I know how to write that. Yeah. And I also thought they're going to give me very little money. So if I'm going to have these two guys, I'm going to shoot the shit out of these two guys just sitting in the car being funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can reel off 30 pages of script and have enough time without people leaning on me to doing the other action shit, because I'm just going to do dialogue. I'm going to just get it out of the way, and I'm going to do fun stuff. And then when it comes to the horror, it's going to go on. But it was designed partially because I get stressed out making these movies and trying to get my vision. So I purposely said, okay, I'm going to do buddy comedy because I can do that well and it's fun. but I don't have to get a lot of shots. I'm going to make it easy on myself because they're not paying me enough to stress out. And that's why the movie is more just a buddy comedy, nothing special except funny dialogue. It's clerks in a car, right? And that's why, when you say it takes a while to take off, it's because I didn't want to work that hard to find a way in my 14 days to add a couple more sequences that would kill me, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the movie is a reflection of what was going on after. And I have to tell you, like the first day of shooting, I'm there with one of the producers, and I said to the guy, I said, so where are my foreign royalties on 100 girls and 100 women? And the guy is not smart enough. He says, well, technically, we're the producers and we need to pay you, but we tell the WGA and the DGA that it's the bank who financed the movie that really needs to pay that. And since it's up in the air who owes, we delay paying you those royalties because we're playing this game with the WGA and the DGA. And I'm like, why are you telling me that you're cheating me? I'm just about to start a movie. Why? That really makes me want to work for you. And then, so I was pissed off day one that I knew they were cheating me, but he wasn't smart enough to hide the fact that he was bragging about how he was cheating me, right? And so then I was pissed off the whole time making that movie, and whenever those guys came to the set, they always come at the end of the day to make sure I was on time. I wasn't going to go into overtime. I'd be even more tense. I'm like, I'm going to make you money, right? And so, so I was glad then that I had designed a movie that I thought I could pull off without too much stress.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one thing though about Monster Man?
Mm-hmm.
So I thoroughly enjoyed Monster Man. Especially, I'm not going to spoil anything for our listeners because
yes, is it the sleep talking scene?
No,
it's my favorite, the sleep talking scene. Okay,
no. The ending is I love the ending. I love the ending, but I'm not going to spoil it for our listeners because if you haven't seen Monster Man, please check it out. If you have Prime, you can watch it on Prime for free.
There's some really fun stuff. I do have to tell you, as frustrating as was, Eric Youngman and Justin Urich were so much fun to work with. But I do have to tell you, so you were talking about like, oh, if I come to Kentucky, you come out here, you're going to bring me in bourbon. Oh. I don't drink, I don't smoke pot, not because I'm against it. I just don't like being sleepy. And if I drink, right? And so the biggest compliment I got from Justin Urich on Monster Man is we're walking. He goes, Michael, you have all these crazy wild ideas. You must be you really must light it up and all that stuff. I'm like, Justin, no, I think of that stuff sober. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I just like making movies. I'm crazy with all that stuff. But the fact that he thought I was a stoner or I smoked pot to get these crazy ideas, I took as a compliment. So when you come, I don't want to fall asleep on you, so you can have the bourbon, but I'm going to probably have the Coke and the Red Bull.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's one of those things where it's always, we hit it off with certain people you don't, just like any other place. And it's like, oh, it's one of us.
And I am one of you, but I don't
one of us
because I fall asleep. I'm a lightweight.
Well, and it's kind of funny you mentioned Justin Urich because I do want to say this. And again, spoilers, you all, if you're listening to this, fast forward about 30 seconds. I want to tell you the whole time watching that movie, I was like, oh my God, when is he going to kill the fucker?
What, when the buddies, you're so annoyed with him?
Yeah, it wasn't annoyed. It was like, he was just such an asshole to his friend. I'm like,
I know, but he's fucking funny.
I know he was fun, but I was like, because if you watch normal horror movie tropes, he's the first to go.
I know. But the film is so underpopulated that it's not if it was in one location. But you must have loved it when Eric Youngman gets him to siphon out the gas, but it's actually the cistern, right? You must have loved that. Then he was sucking down the shit. It was so funny, right?
Michael, you can ask Joe and James. That's my humor.
I was like, great because you know what. But you expect it because that's what people do. They siphon the gas out by sucking it out with a straw. That's what they would do. But the fact that the wimpy kid would play the joke on him you know, so he does get back at
Yeah,
Justin.
he gets back
you
at him a
know?
little bit. Yeah, the whole time I'm like, oh my God, this guy's such an asshole. When is he gonna die?
Right. But you know, but that's the thing is it's better that the character is not bland, right?
Yeah, no, he was very colorful. No, I not. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. You know, but I also like when he's like telling the story of the rosebud, right? Of the Orson
Yeah.
Welles thing. True story. That's a true story. And I love finding real life trivia and then putting it into my script. And you go, that's freaking amazing because, you know, fact is stranger than fiction. You know, it's funny because it's true. Right.
All right.
And
But it's like, I got into trouble. I'm going to stop you right here. I mean, I'm going to go on a tangent, right? But
yeah,
so, you know, there's this game, and, you know, my father-in-law is from the South, and you have this, you know, relaxing game called cornhole, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, we're
But you know, there's a slang for cornholing, right? With
Right.
cornholing,
Yes.
right?
We're familiar with it.
Okay,
We're
so I was
familiar with
telling
both
him,
versions.
why would you play a game? Why wouldn't you just name the game like bag toss or something like that? Why would you keep the name cornhole, right? And so then I started to explain to them, my friends who played the game and had never heard the trivia of and I said, wouldn't you want to know when you say, hey, my brother and I like the cornhole, right? We always go out and play cornhole, right? Wouldn't you like to know that other people are going to No, they would not. They don't like the trivia. It's funny because it's true. I get in trouble sometimes for being too coarse.
I don't think I think most of the people who play it know that too and just laugh. I actually have a shirt that says cornhole is for lovers.
Okay, but I'm shocked when I ask people, you know, it's like my brother-in-law, he's in his 60s and he's been playing it for 20 years and he doesn't know.
I don't know how he doesn't know.
Okay. But anyway, I mean, sex is funny. Anything related to sex is funny, and I just put it in there.
Well,
Well,
that's how you
actually-
split up the boneheads. If it's a sex joke, it's me. If it's a shit joke, it's Chad.
yeah.
Well, and by the way, you segue into one thing I wanted to ask really quickly because I was familiar with the book, the graphic novel, the Tokyo Pop, whatever, Riding Shotgun.
Oh, okay, sure.
You animated some Riding Shotgun.
Did you see the
I
pilot?
I did. I hadn't seen it, but I watched the pilot and I was like, this is a little bit different. But you played the sex angle, and I was having a blast. I was like, actually, this is an improvement. It is no offense
I mean,
to
I
the
have to
writers.
tell you, that little piece of animation is one of the favorite things I've ever done. I was showing it to this kid that was working for McGee, and he had tears coming out of his eyes, and he gave me the biggest compliment of all time. He goes, I can't believe I'm seeing this. It's like, it's magic. I can't believe this thing exists in the world, and I'm watching it right now.
Because I had read the book and your animation was just, it's over the top, but it gave me the same feeling, the shootout, the everything else that I was
Well, you're
like,
not
oh,
going to give anything away. I mean, I basically, you know, everybody has heard the phrase, I got caught with my pants down, right?
Yeah.
Well, why not have a gunfight when you're caught with your pants down? And that's what happens. And
Well,
that's
and it's
funny.
and it's the fact that it's a guy and a not hideous woman, and
Oh,
it's
she's
animated.
hot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. And the fact that you play that up from the intro to everything that happens, and the last line is just as good. So I wanted to give you a compliment because I at first read the Tokyo Pop to get a sense of
Those
it.
things are fun, but you know, we were kind of basically, and I was really disappointed. I did it for this place called Spike TV. If you remember
Oh,
Spike
yes.
TV,
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely.
like a cheapo cable station for men, right?
Mhm.
Or men centric. And they said they wanted to do their own the hour, whatever their late night Adult Swim kind of thing was.
Right.
And so they were going to do 2 shows, and they were doing these presentation pilots. So we made Riding Shotgun, and they freaking loved it, right? They just went nuts. And then they did a thing that was based on a graphic novel, and it was like a Pam Anderson, which she's just like, she's not that sexy for me, but it was like hooker by day, superhero by night, or whatever.
Stripperella.
Yeah, something like that. Stripperella.
Yeah, it was Stripperella.
And that's too on the nose, not as thoughtful or whatever. It's just kind of super crass, like all men will like that. But I don't know. But the pilot came out so crappy that when Spike TV realized they didn't have an hour block, they only had a half hour. And we said, we'll do another pilot for you. We'll make your hour block. No, they became disenamored with it and they killed the whole thing. And that's why they didn't go to series with it. But I think that Riding Shotgun would have been through the roof successful for Spike TV, but they couldn't just do it as a half hour. They needed to create a block. And
I enjoyed, and matter of fact, actually, I'll make sure these two see it because I enjoyed it.
I'm watching it tomorrow.
And I thought this is beautiful. It is a beautiful, funny action. Just I laughed and I was like, yeah, this was I would have watched. You would have had a fan of that show forever.
And that was where I met Yuri Lowenthal, the great voice actor, who does the slacker assassin, and I've used him in many places. He's just so super talented. He's been a great friend of mine. But I was going to ask you, so I've done a couple of these shows to help promote my Kickstarter, Blast 'em Up. But a lot of these places, the format in their brand is not like a lot of it, they let me do the promotion at the end. And I don't know whether or not people are making it to the end or they're watching it in spaces.
We can do it in both.
Whether or not we could do a Blast 'em Up promo or talk about it, but we find a way structurally that you could edit it and put it at the top of the show so people don't miss it, because I really want to make Blast 'em Up and I need people to come to my Kickstarter. So is there any way that we do like, hey, we're having Michael Davis on tonight and he's going to talk about a show, Blast 'em Up, and we're going to have a big long conversation about the film business, but can we just show you what he's up to first? And you find a way to make it work at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And then we can talk about it. And then, I mean, even if you decide that it's only like they saw the trailer, they saw a little bit about it, they know the go, you're going to put the link in your description, they know. And then if you don't want to talk too much about it, you want to get into all the other great film stuff, that's fine. As long as they get the idea and they could go to the Kickstarter, that would be awesome.
So what we'll do,
we are going to share.
And you can
this
even show
thoroughly.
me kind of pitching you guys. You can say, well, this is what Holly was like. Michael twisted their arm. It's later in the show.
No,
but
Michael.
It's kind of funny to see him telling him, let's do this.
Michael, you are giving us the greatest gift that another human being can ever give, and that is your time. And we appreciate that.
Yeah, you have no idea.
You know what? It strokes my ego to have people talk about my stuff, loving my stuff. It's really you guys giving me the gift, and it's fun. It's super fun for me. I know it's great for you, but I have to tell you, anybody who doesn't think that it's great for them is fooling themselves. This is awesome for me.
Well,
and you also gave me Katherine Heigl in a bra, so I'll do anything for you.
Oh, that was fun. That you watched all of them. I mean, isn't that funny? The idea of strip foosball, it's like, those are the things where you can walk in and you don't even have to say, this is going to be funny. It's just a funny concept, right?
Yeah.
So, no, we do our research. So what we'll do right now is I will say, hey, and then we'll get off into talks about, and James, do you want to do it? Because
you do an intro and then did you download the video I sent?
No, I've been listening to you the whole time.
So
we'll do that. I'll add that later. I'll add that later.
Okay. So we'll pretend that everybody saw it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So you
we'll
pretend, and then you set it up, and we'll go. So this is what I'm doing, right?
Right.
Okay. That's smart. Wow. Look at you.
Well,
I keep thinking it's live. I mean, that's what
I have failed at everything except this, Michael. I have failed at everything except this. All right, James, you want to go and do the intro?
Sure. I will do it. All right, this week on Bonehead Weekly, we have the great Michael Davis, who we know for several different things, but Shoot 'em Up is one of our favorites. And we are very, very fortunate in that Michael Davis is working on a sort of science fiction follow-up called Blast 'em Up. And so we will show you've seen the clip from that, you've seen the trailer, and we'll talk about that because we want to see this. We want to see this made. We love Shoot 'em Up. Let's talk about Blast 'em Up. What can we expect from Blast 'em Up?
Yeah, so
then will you show the trailer somewhere in there? You'll cut into it?
Yeah, we'll do the trailer first and then go into it.
Oh, so he'll say that after the trailer.
We'll do one, or I will add something later if it doesn't work.
Okay,
later
you'll
for
figure
me.
you'll
Yeah,
figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
Blast 'em Up is that you were perfect. It is the spiritual follow up to Shoot 'em Up. Shoot 'em Up had all the cool things you could do with a gunfight, but Blast 'em Up is all the cool things that you can do with a blaster fight. It's basically, shoot 'em up in space, shoot 'em up in the future. And I have recently pivoted from live action to animation, and everything you saw in the trailer, I did from scratch in 3 weeks, from animation to character modeling to the set. And I just feel like I am the total auteur. And I just excited to make another super duper crazy action film, and that's Blast 'em Up. And the genesis of it is I thought about maybe what if I did a sequel to Shoot 'em Up, but animated. But then I'd have to go get the rights and have to negotiate with New Line, and that's kind of a pain. I just want to have fun making stuff. So I thought, well, everybody knows Shoot 'em Up. If they see Blast 'em Up and it's by me, they're going to know that it's kind of the same thing, and I don't have to negotiate to get the rights. And so that's kind of how Blast 'em Up came about. But I actually need people's help to make it. I can animate the movie all by myself. I previously animated a 2D movie called Nixed that premiered at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival. So I have the stamina, but there are things I can't afford. I need actors to voice act. I need to record them. There's going to be some mocap actors, soundtrack, and a composer. And so I have a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign that it'd be great if you guys could come out and support me. It's going to be in the description here. A Blast 'em Up Kickstarter. If you can support me or just spread the word about it, that'd be really great. And I apologize for being so self-promoting. I just love making movies.
So what we're going to do for all the folks out there listening is that what we're going to do over the next 24 to 48 hours, because this is obviously recorded before this will actually go live, each one of the boneheads are going to donate to Blast 'em Up. And what we're going to do is encourage you to go out there and do it. And we are going to share this on our social media. James will show it on will share it on the, God damn it. I cannot not say Twitter. It's called Twitter. I don't give a shit.
I know,
it's called
Twitter.
X. Fuck him. Anyway, we're going to share it on the Twitter. All the tweeters, we're also going to show it on our share it on our Facebook accounts as well and all that. So go out there, check it out. Look at the trailer. We've done this before. You all have supported comic books that we've had our artists on here before. Go out there, 10, 20, 50, whatever it is you can afford. Give it to them, because original art is important. Original voices are important. Everything is based on IP. And every time you get bitchy out there about, I don't want to see the next Spider-Man 42, well, then go out and watch something that isn't based on something that already exists, something new, something fresh, something different. Go out there and support our friend, our new geek nerd friend, who's going to buy us dinner and get us drunk and introduce us to Peter Gould. Sorry. I'm going off a little bit on a tangent at the end.
No, I might be able to get him. We could do a Double Dragon episode, but you reminded me. I don't know if it's possible.
I would love to do a Double Dragon episode.
Okay, we could get Peter. But
I doubt that he'll do our show, but thank you.
No, it's possible, because we did. There was a new reissue of Double Dragon, and we did a commentary with some people on for the new Double Dragon. But what I was going to say is, I don't know if it would be people, this would be of value, but maybe we do a contest that if people you can prove that you gave to Blast 'em Up, you do a drawing of that person can come on the show, and I'll come on the show with them, and they can talk to me, I can talk to them, and I can thank them for donating, and they can sort of make, I don't know, a little contest, and we can be on the show together. Do something. Figure it out. You figure out what the contest is, and I'll come in and endorse it. Endorse you guys, and be with the winner or multiple winners.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. If you give, and the person let's say the top 2 people who give, we will have them on the show.
Yeah, or find a way that what you want to do is, you don't want to make it you want to make it like democratic. So somebody gives like the minimum, somebody gives more. You don't want it to be like, well, that guy outbid me, but they all get to be in the drawing no matter what they give. So
I
everybody
know,
has a
but
chance.
don't
Don't
you
you like
want
that?
more money? Don't you want
I
more
do, but I
money?
think you get more money if they feel like, hey, if I would rather like it's like like how Obama got elected. Everybody gave $10, not a bunch of millionaires giving $1 million. You get a bunch of people giving the minimum. That might be more than people paying more.
That sounds great. We will put them in a drawing and then we'll do it. Whatever you want, motherfucker. Whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know what they whether your listeners are red or blue. Maybe you should cut out the Obama thing because I might be losing people by saying that. So
I'm
maybe
not
let's get the
cutting
politics out of
shit.
geekdom. Like
I
we
am not cutting shit. It is fine. We've had politics on here before. We are good.
Okay, well there
That's
you go.
see, Mr. Davis, that's the one good thing about not worrying about this paying the bills.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
When you were
As
talking
I
about being in
said,
a
I
tour,
just want to I want us to unite over our love of action adventure, and that's all that counts.
that is
Mhm.
absolutely
agree.
all that counts. And it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show tonight. I didn't ask you if you had a heart out or how long it would be.
No, I
You
mean,
have-
so I didn't mean to, so now that you did the thing, I verified that I accomplished my mission, but I didn't mean the blast them up thing to end the conversation. But if you guys have a heart out, I'm fine with it. But I didn't mean it to be like, okay, the party's over. I just wanted to make sure I checked it off.
Well,
so I
what
could
I'm
go-
thinking, is that we're almost at 2 hours actually.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is that we might like to have you back.
Okay.
And
that's
if we're
fine.
going to have winners of a contest, that would be an ideal
That
time
would
to have
And
you
you know
back.
what? If you ran it, if you figured out the contest so it ended before June 27th, like you got the winners before June 27th, the second time I'm on could also still help me in the home stretch. You know what I mean? So it's not like a promotion afterwards. It's like it still helps.
Yeah,
because
we've
it's
done-
super
we-
fun.
Yeah, we've done this a lot. Actually, we've done this several times for friends of ours who are doing their own comics. And we will have them on the show and we'll be promoting them. We've had them at some of our live events that we do at some of the conventions. They've been nice enough to give us live shows with an audience, so we can do it live. So we've done that for them there too. So
Well,
yeah,
I have to tell you, so I listen to audiobooks when I'm animating or doing my work.
uh-huh.
I become such fans of yours. Now I feel like I have 300 episodes of something to listen to while I'm working because, you guys have just got such a great chemistry,
Don't start with episode 1.
Where should I start?
I don't know. It's a really good question that I'm never able to answer.
Should I start at 10 or do I need to really go deep?
I actually think some of our best, so it depends. So some of our long-term listeners actually like it when we don't have guests and we just argue.
Yeah,
and
and I
some-
think that'd be great.
And so a good friend of ours who is a production designer who's been on the show many times. He was a production designer on Nightmare on Elm Street 4, 3. He's actually the guy that introduced us to Jeff Burr. His name's Mick Strawn. I don't know if you
Okay.
know.
No.
And he will text me every once in a while, or he'll leave me a really nasty voicemail about a son of a bitch. I know all these Hollywood bullshit people. Please stop having them on the show. I'm like, "That's part of it." Well, I just
Well,
wanna
you know
listen to
what?
you
He's
guys.
not wrong. There are a ton of douchebags out there, a ton. And unfortunately, I've worked for a lot of them.
Well, so before we
But no,
go,
but you know what? I was telling recently, I started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I've seen them all, but now I've been watching them going backwards from season 12 all the way to 1. Maybe I'll start on episode 200 and go through to now, and then I'll start at episode 100 and go to 200. And then when I know how awesome you are, I'll be more forgiving of the earlier episodes. Does that make sense?
well, actually, what I would say is you other two, which ones do you think they should start with? So I always tell people to start with the interviews, but I don't.
I'll be honest. If you want something, and the other two are immediately going to tell me I'm wrong. If you want to on our Bonehead website, you can actually find the most recent short film we
Okay.
did, which is Murder Virgin. And it's
Oh, I
about
love the title.
It is
Yeah.
about a young lady who decides she's going to become a serial killer, but unfortunately she decides her first victim is going to be somebody that is
A fat man. She picks a fat. I was sitting in my. I used to weigh 80 pounds. I was 80 pounds heavier, and I was in my basement one night, and I was thinking about the actress who was in this short film beforehand, and she's maybe $110, $120, and I was like, what if her little scrawny ass decided to murder me? How would she even do it? And she's an idiot. not in real life, but the character's an idiot.
Yeah.
And then
And so
she gets, you know how Michael, you and I are all,
Right.
yeah, that's what she finds, a big fat guy who's that.
That's
And
funny. That is
and
a
so-
great.
Yeah,
we
but
wrote
I
the
don't think I did a
script
good
and-
job executing it.
But
So,
so,
and
let
we-
me ask you this. In doing all this stuff and making these shorts, do you have planned or would like you do you want to go and move and do a feature? What do you have thoughts, ambitions? Where are your heads at there?
I would have loved to 10 years ago. Now I don't. Now the actual economics of the business are so, and I say this all the time, and I get to hang out sometimes with people who make movies, and I know it's never been easier to make a movie. It's never been harder to make money at it.
I think that's exactly right. And it's because the lower budgeted movies used to have the secondary revenue stream of Blockbuster has to buy stuff. Mom and pop need to buy new stuff. And no matter what, you could sell it. But and the Netflix of the world screw you over because they're the only game in town and they pay for nothing. They
pay for nothing. I mean, even before video, I mean, Corman had drive-ins. You could make a living in the South in drive-ins going from and there is multitudes of people who made a fortune doing it. It doesn't exist because YouTube and no one wants to pay for entertainment.
That's true. I think you're right. So yeah, I think the 90s were an okay time it's always hard for indie filmmakers, but you had a chance to break even. I mean, it's not quite the same thing, but like Walt Disney said, I always want to make a movie good enough and successful enough so I can go and make another movie.
Yes.
And that used to be for some indie filmmakers, but now it's even harder, you know.
It's even harder. So
but maybe if I figure out my Kickstarter, right, the idea is if maybe I get enough of an audience that supports me, the next time might not be so hard. And I'm not making this movie to make any money. I mean, maybe in distribution, there'll be a little bit of money. I just want to make a movie that I can maybe pay myself, get it out there, have a good audience, and be able to make another movie. That's all I care about. I mean, you said, remember I came on late and I didn't, have my background set up. Well, now, I mean, can you guys see now my crappy garage, right? And I'm
as George Harrison said to the Pythons when he was going to bankroll The Life of Brian, I just want to see the movie, man.
And I was about to say, and to be honest, to me, it's like buying a ticket to see the movie, right? I've backed other films, and to be honest, I've got to say, whether we're recording or not, it doesn't matter. My father was a huge action film fan. Matter of fact, his guideline was no dialogue, as many explosions as you can give me, and I can tell you, I watched this with my father.
That's so great.
And he was like, it delivered exactly what I wanted. Like, I can remember, like, he liked Die Hard. He likes it, but he goes, oh, talk. Like, and I was like, no, Dad, I've got one for you. And I can remember when it came out on DVD and I went and I bought this, I think at Best Buy, because I had saw it in theaters and my dad hated going to movie theaters because he's like, I don't want to watch. And I said, Dad, listen. And I couldn't get him to go to the theater. And I'm like, when it comes out, I'm going to run to Best Buy. I'm going to buy it. I did. And I went home and it was so funny because my father, I joke all the time. My dad's guideline for films was he didn't like a lot of foul language, but he was completely fine with violence.
Yes,
he was like, listen,
yes.
Listen, because like for instance, my younger sibling wanted to go see Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton when it came out, and my dad looked at me and goes, "Well, is it something she can watch?" Because she was quite a bit younger than I was, and I was like, "Dad, it's axes take off people's heads," and his logic was, and I tell people this all the time. Listen, she needs to know that if somebody takes an axe to her head, she's gonna die. That's a life lesson she needs to have.
That's a good life lesson. That's so funny.
And so, but he watched this and he loved it, and he's since passed away. But so I look at this sometimes and I think, man, I got to watch this with my dad, and he loved it, and it was over the top. So
you reminded me. So when Giamatti tells the limerick about the woman who was quite begat.
Yeah,
well, that was my dad's limerick, and it was his favorite joke. So whenever I see the movie, I love it because it's kind of a little eccentric, but it reminds me of my dad. And so, anyway, that That's a really nice compliment. Thank you.
So no, I wanted to share that because it's a personal story to me, but it's another reason that my dad loved action films, and he watched this one, and he was like, "No, this is." He said, "You delivered."
It was great that you walked in. This is going to deliver, Dad. Oh yeah, okay. And then you knew it was going to deliver. So that's nice.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Wow.
to end this, I just want to say the leader who stays in the rear takes it in the rear. Besides, violence is fun to watch.
It's the most fun thing to watch.
I am so sorry, Michael.
No. I just want to make sure because it makes more sense with the most in it. That's all I'm saying. It's fun. Violence is the most fun thing to watch.
There you go. And I think that's where we should probably end it. Thank you so much. We're going to have you back on the show.
We'll see you soon. This was a real pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right. I want to push stop record. All right.
I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
I've been thinking. I'm doing good. It's just good business. I'm sorry.
Face and body implants on. Morph activated.
Think of all the things that think these days. Everything.
What a way to make a living.
Wait, gets worse.